Welcome back to West Texas View.
We were talking before the break with Dr. Bobby Jain, who is a psychiatrist and both teaches in the medical school at Texas Tech University Health Science Center, but also is a practicing physician. And we're going to talk about ways to access him later but in the program. But right now I want us to continue or finish this conversation we had started about how important those early nurturing years are with your children and your grandchildren, because we have to face it, grandparents are very strong role models for the children. But if you want to raise a kind, loving, compassionate child, it has to start early. And if I'm going to summarize what I think you said you don't raise them to think they are smarter than anybody in the world or more beautiful or more handsome than anybody in the world. It's wonderful to tell them they're smart and they're pretty.
Absolutely.
And they're loved and all of these other things. But to overvalue a child makes them then turn inward, like they're entitled to everybody's adoration, and they are then only thinking about themselves.
That's a very good point. There's a very fine line between you really want to have your child to have a good self-esteem, you don't want to have that they can do anything they want to do, and have built-in confidence. And there's a very fine line between a confident person compared to an arrogant person. You want your child to be confident, so you really want to instill in them the fact that yes, you can do, and you can do better. But the better is from what you have been doing before. Now, you can do better does not mean that there are other people not out there who can be equally good. You want to make them competitive, but you want to say, don't want to say that you're the best and the brightest in the world.
In the whole world.
In the whole world.
I've heard parents say that.
And it's good, and most parents tend to be blindsided. Grandparents can be blindsided, and in love and affection, they tend to lose touch in the reality that when they go outside in the world, there will be people better and worse than them. There's always someone better. There are people more smarter than Einstein, for example. Now, that doesn't mean Einstein was not smart, and doesn't mean that Einstein didn't achieve much, but this is what the difference is about, that you can do things, anything you want to do, but there can be people who can do better than you, and that can be a good role model for you to achieve better and improve on yourself. But that's the whole fine line that we should work towards.
And one of the things that I think most loving parents don't realize is sometimes too much is the most unloving thing you can do. So really look at the effects of what you're creating in those very young years, because it's just only going to grow more pronounced as the.
And this is one of the things I tell you, a very good way to get some form of feedback is particularly during the formative years of schooling. And that's why I very highly value a teacher's feedback about how the child is doing.
Interacts with other children, respects the authority.
Exactly. And the teacher has 30 other kids to compare your child to, compared to how your child is behaving in the class compared to, say, 30 other kids.
And can see kindness traits or unkindness
traits developing very quickly. And teachers, a good teacher with long years of experience can immediately pick out which child is probably having more problems than the other, what is norm, what is above average, and what is below average performance. So getting feedback, because if you have the only child in your home, you have nothing else to compare to. Whatever your child does looks very good to you. But how does a child stand in comparing to other children? That can probably only achieve when the teacher observes and gives unbiased opinion about how your child is functioning.
One of the things you mentioned at the first segment was that you really need to be actively involved in role modeling your kindness and your compassion for others, like serving in a volunteer capacity or being compassionate to someone who has hurt themselves or has had a run of bad luck.
Exactly, and this is something that children pick up very early in life. If they see role models, particularly family members, close family members who they admire or they are very close in proximity doing charity work or doing things which are right thing to do, be helping others or putting themselves below, above, or below other people's needs and requirements, tend to be a very good example for the children. So early exposure to children. You cannot expect a child to engage into charity work and do selfless act if you yourself are not doing it.
That's right.
So these kind of things. So in developing opportunities around the child, particularly early formative years, can be a very good example, very good working example for a child to follow when they grow up themselves. And we can be very small things. We can be raising funds for any charity, doing some volunteer work for animals, for example, or even helping a friend without expecting anything back because it's the right thing to do, can give a very good example. Also, when there are conflicts there, suppose there are fighting there, and of course there are conflicts there with kids always getting into trouble, and how you behave, how you handle those kind of conflicts gives the very good foundation on which the child actually builds on their future personality on it.
Good. And one of the things that I know when our little girl was growing up, I was very involved with the Salvation Army as a volunteer. And so I would take her, or my husband and I would take her when we helped serve the meals.
Yeah.
And so this was a good example for her to know that not everybody has enough food.
Exactly.
Or not everybody has a house to go home and sleep in, or
it gives you a lot of appreciation of already what you have. You don't have to have a multi-million-dollar home or at most affluence in order to raise a good child. Sufficient, there's always a curve where say that after meeting basic needs, anything more than that actually is more likely to spoil the child than anything else, because it gives them less appreciation to what they have, and they have no incentive to strive for something better. So it's important that they know what they have. It's important for them to strive for something better in life and know what they can achieve in life further.
But one of the things that research study that you had sent me said is that teaching a child to express gratitude was really, really important in the first days. We're going to take a break in just a minute, and when we come back, I want him to tell you about the Texas Tech University Health Science Center and how it trains for our medical welfare by training doctors and all of the other allied health professions. But I also want him to talk about how he teaches and also is a practicing physician. And if we have some time, we're going to talk about obesity in children and adults. We will come back in just a minute and continue this conversation.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.